welcome to today's Maine Media Alumni Network presentation with Patrick Cady. We're delighted to have with us. I'm Wayne Beach, Chair of the Film Program at Maine Media. We're grateful to the First National Bank Wealth Management for helping to sponsor this series, and to those of you who made donations, thank you. Your support allows us to offer hundreds of workshops annually. I can tell you right now, we offer about 160 film workshops every year, about half of them on campus, half of them online. And our in-person campus workshops start March 30th and are on our website, so check them out. Our campus season runs from March 30th to through the end of October. Our guest today, Patrick Cady, will be teaching on campus August 3rd through 7th. His workshop is called Framing the Narrative and explores how to use framing, lenses, and lighting as tools to convey the emotions and psychology of a story. And perhaps he can tell you a bit about it before the end of today's session. We also have an extraordinary array of online workshops happening throughout the rest of winter and spring and fall, and more are being added every day. So keep checking back on the website. Our next alumni lecture will be on March 24th with book artist Annalise Scar, followed by one on April 7th with photographer Kevin Johnson in conversation with Michael Mansfield. And the acclaimed documentary filmmaker Penny Lane will be doing a talk on Tuesday, April 21st. Today, as you have questions for Patrick, please post them in the chat thread as they occur to you, and he can address them during Q&A. Patrick is an Emmy-nominated cinematographer who's also now a busy director. His directing credits include Amazon's Bosch, where he started as a cinematographer, where he started working on the show as a cinematographer. He started as a cinematographer before that. And Bosch Legacy. Recently, he was also a producer director on Bad Robot's Duster for HBO Max. His other directing credits include the Sundance Channel series Rectify, the Paramount Plus series Interrogation, Ballard on Amazon, and NCIS Origins on CBS Paramount. His feature and television cinematography credits include Paint, The Stepfather, Double X, Fear the Walking Dead, Suits, In Treatment, Marie and Bruce, and the Sundance and Cannes award-winning feature Girl Fight. He was nominated for an Emmy for cinematography on the HBO series Insecure. Patrick got hooked working on the set as camera intern for legendary cinematographer Roger Deakins on the John Sayles film Passion Fish in 1991. A decade later, he was the director of photography on Sayles' Sunshine State. Patrick is a vice president on the board of the ASC and an active member of the Motion Picture Academy. Please Patrick.
That's a really nice introduction. Thanks. I should copy that. That's a good one. I seem very, very important.
You
All
are.
right. So, welcome everyone. I'm going to just dive into it. What I'm going to do today, something I was thinking about when Wayne pitched doing this, which I'm excited to be here and very thankful to Maine Media for having me. Uh, was that oftentimes, especially for us pros, we might show you big scenes, and I do bring samples of like entire features or really big scenes from series finales, and you kind of might miss that the thing that really gets you in and out of your workday is a little scene that you cover very efficiently. And that seems to tie in much more with what the classes that I do at Maine Media and we'll be doing in August, where we talk about how to cover a scene in just a few shots efficiently. And that is actually wiring your brain to make a whole movie because every scene should have its own arc and everything like that. Um, so I like to think that a subtitle for this would be like every scene is important, but some you get more time to shoot. So I'm going to do a lot of screen sharing and I'll be using the different apps. I apologize, my little dog is really guarding our house from the mail delivery. Uh, but I'll be starting with I'm going to share the script and then shout out. I don't know if anyone from the show is here, but especially to Tom Bernardo from Bosch Legacy. they are allowing me to share this material with you and have allowed me to share it in other work kind of open workshops. And that is a delightful thing to be trusted with. So here is what you end up getting. Uh, and the interesting thing about TV directing is that you are brought on as the guest and the show is running and you'll get handed a script. This is the as aired script. So I got an earlier script, the white or full, probably white. I might have even been sent an outline before I dropped into technically prepping this episode. In most television 1 hour programs, you have 7 days of prep and then usually 8 days of shooting. This episode had nine because this episode does have a really big set piece scene that's all around La Zona Rosa. So it would be very easy to think only of that giant set piece as your main issue. Um, the thing that's interesting about looking at a top sheet like this is how many bosses you are answering to. And then as you go through, the first couple pages will let you know a bunch of things that you're going to be dealing with. So this is the size of the cast. Some had not been oh, these unknown caller, dispatch, and airship. They just didn't have the credits for the to put in this final. But when you get your first script, a lot of these guest actors will not yet be cast. So you'll be seeing gaps, but you get a quick like just flipping through the script to start before you read it for the first time. You're like, oh, okay, that's pretty heavy cast. And then I saw this and was like, huh, that's a lot of places, which is a very typical response to a Bosch show where most of the locations are true locations, not set builds that are going to be easy to shoot in. And I try to just skip past these, but it's hard to not like in going by this page to see it. And I use an app called Scriptation in my iPad, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then I started reading, and the scene we're going to talk about is on page 30. We'll go to that now. And there's a lot of very big set piece scenes and everything like that, but I wanted to just take the time and I'm going to read this scene out loud because we're going to be talking about it a bunch. Um, Exterior Hotel Lancaster. There's a scene just before this where Bosch and a fellow detective, well, Bosch is retired in this story, and a detective named Lopez deal with a racist motel owner who's not going to give them any information. And so, apologies if you are sensitive to swearing. Here it comes. Bosch and Lopez, exterior Hotel Lancaster, moments later. Bosch and Lopez walk out. Asshole. I got to take this. It's Seals. This is Lopez. Bosch, yeah, do your thing. Lopez walks away. Bosch continues to mow, waiting at the car. Learn anything? We're going to stick around a bit, see if anyone will talk to us. And me, you head back to United Chemical, get eyes on comings and goings. Yeah, on it. Mo gets in, drives off. Lopez joins Bosch. I've been summoned to the chief's office. I've gotten that call more than once. Seal say what it was about? No. Bosch considers. You come up here, we start asking questions. Now the chief wants to see you. You have your career to protect. Think before you speak. Roger that. Keep me posted. Off Lopez getting into his car. All right, I'm going to stop the share for a second. So, simple scene, but it has a good structure, right? There's they're responding to the scene they were just in. Bosch is giving some marching orders so we know where his partner is going to be. And then there's this surprise that Lopez is getting called down to the main office and Bosch senses that something's wrong. There's a scene earlier in the script where they've met a local sheriff who seems to be very helpful. But if this is happening, the sheriff probably called it in because Bosch is not a detective. So they're kind of poking around, but not truly officially, even though a detective is involved. So now, the other thing you get handed all the time, and I'll go back to sharing, often is a one-liner, which will let you know kind of what the initial plan is for how the show is going to be scheduled. Now, this will change as you are scouting and finding locations and maybe even doing some rewrites based on if a location is successful or not. But on a show like Bosch with so many locations, the line producer, Peter Jan Brugge, who was the producer with Michael Mann on Heat and The Insider, so very, very experienced and really wonderful. He is doing a lot of creative producing before the director arrives, setting up how you can find locations and build days together. So when you get these one-liners, in this show at least, some things are kind of already set in stone and in motion because you only have 7 days of prep. And it's really rare that that 7 days is going to cover 2 weekends, and everyone has to pull permits and everything else. So with the script, you'll often get something like this. And so I'm looking at this, and this day is a little like there's a lot of scenes, and it's 6 1/8 pages. They think it's going to be now. By the time this schedule is not the very first one I got. This one has times on it, us guesstimating how much time we're going to take. This one is a lot of moves, like moving around, and I'm real. And this is the big set piece, and you can see that it's really broken up, um, so that it's 2 days to cut this one big set piece. Lots of action. There's a shooting. There's cars pulling into a street that is a real busy street in LA. There's a chase, there's a foot chase, there's a takedown, and it's all emotionally driven. So this is the thing that would be very easy to spend all your time on. Like you could easily spend 7 days prepping just this, getting everyone ready for this, but then the rest of the show you wouldn't be on target as a director. So this seems like an easier day. It's um conference room and DA's office, so more dialogue. So maybe that's a shorter day, and they have it as a slightly shorter day. This day doesn't seem horrible. There's some movements and but something that on Bosch we typically could do very easily. This is more set stuff, but then a move to the but then a move to the Bosch house, so that takes time to get up in that location. And then I'm scrolling through this day, and I don't know if you noticed, this is the first of the days I've been showing you where uh, a whole day is an entire page of the one-liner, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 12 scenes covering at this point 7 4/8 pages. It became 8 pages by the time we got to shooting it, and it's in a location. And I know looking at this that it's going to be location. So these interior motel rooms, they could be and turned out to be second floor motel rooms. So tough to shoot in, one door out. You've got a whole crew. I immediately tagged this as a day I've got to pay a lot of attention to. And then I looked at the rest of the schedule, and this is also a big deal. Um, but I was like, huh, I've got to work on this on this section of the schedule. So we go tech scout it, and I'll show you what a text. So a tech scout, we went and looked at this location, and you would think we did go look at it as a regular location without the entire crew, so I could get my head around the location. And this is let's see here. Um, so I could get my head around the location, and then and get some kind of plan together. Uh, I don't know if by the time we were tech scouting, I didn't have a full shot list together because it was, you're pretty busy looking at things and sorting it out for yourself. Um, but just to give you a sense of the amount of time you do or don't have on a TV series to look at things, that location we had from, and this is how it's timed, 9:55 to 11:20 to show the crew. I love Wayne, that's the correct reaction. Um, um, to show the crew all those scenes in the shooting order and to give them enough time. I have to be enough on my game to give them enough time with the cinematographer to figure out how they're going to shoot things with the art department to figure out what parts they need to dress that I'm going to see with camera. So this whole day, all I'm doing, if I'm doing my job properly as a director, is saying, we will never look here. And that's where we can put the trucks. And we will see this, we will see that. And then I will answer oftentimes the same question more than once from different departments. I will be doing, but nothing but answering questions about what I'm hoping to get done in these locations. So my prep has been leading up to this day. And to tell you, like, and then we got back to the office around 5. I did not go straight home. I probably answered a few more questions, then went home, and you sleep like a baby because you've just shot half the show. We had 2 days of location scout of tech scouting. Um, and at as part of your scouting, the art department makes a packet that and this is the packet for day 2 of that scout, and it's drawings of this is a location that they're going to build this room in. But then I had to say like, oh well, we're going to have a shot in this corner, so we'll see a little bit in this office, so maybe they have to put a desk in here. These are all windows, these are walls. This is an exterior that we're going to stage something in on a pickup day. Uh, and then this is the hotel. It's scripted as a hotel, but I always call it a motel. And the scene that I read, they're going to be walking out of this lobby here to their cars. And I'm like, okay, maybe the cars are parked on the street or maybe they're parked here in the lot. Um, I'll get to that when I'm shot listing. And then these are all the other things we also looked at on that day. Um, and this homework that the art department is doing is also never stopping. Well, the Bosch house, we all know this is a house this crew had been shooting in for 9 years by the time we got to this episode. But a lot of these other things we've never shot in before, and so people are making notes on these plots, and I am using them to come up with shot lists. And I often will um, use them in combination with photos I take on location or just map grabs. So I this is an early shot list for that day. And you see all these, and that day has a scene where um Bosch and Mo, the character Mo, find something hiding in the room. And if we have time, I have a set of clips that's all the stuff we shot just in that day, cut end to end. So you have a sense of like how much work we got done in one day. But I know that for this sequence, I need a lot of shots to build the tension of them looking for something and not finding it and then suddenly finding it. And because it's a motel room, the way I shot list, and this is by no means everyone does this differently. The way I shot list is because as a former cinematographer, I know when I can shoot two cameras at once or versus one camera at a time. If I am shooting two cameras at once, I make it a number in the A and the B camera. In courtroom scenes, I might have four cameras and I'll make A, B, C, D. But in this, you can see, I know that we're gonna have to spend a lot of time with just one camera in this tiny motel room, and that's gonna take time. And then we're in the lobby, and then this is my initial plan for that exterior lobby scene. And I'm realizing as I initially put this list together, it's too long. Like we'll never make our day. And I am really adamant of trying to make my day in 12 hours or less because if my day is 12 hours, that still means some of the crew has had like a 13-hour day, and I don't want people driving home any with any less sleep than that. Like it's just dangerous. So I realize I have to figure out where a pinch point is where I can cover it more efficiently. So let's look at my initial thoughts for that scene. Bosch stays, Mo goes to United Chemical, Lopez is called to the Chiefs. That's that scene we read. So I have the idea of four Steadicam shots. One leading Bosch and Lopez in a two shot. Lopez breaks off. Bosch turns to Mo. It becomes a two shot of Bosch and Mo. As Mo leaves, Lopez comes in from the background. They step aside, and maybe I have the sound of Mo leaving, thinking like I'll have his like the cars are probably end to end, and I'll have Mo's car pull forward and then stop for sound. Then a steady cam over Mo as Bosch approaches that becomes a single on Lopez. That's a really good trick to do is to have people take over each other's um, position so that the shots keep developing, but you feel like as the audience, you're not aware that we're you reusing marks from other people. And this is absolutely the kind of stuff we go over in that workshop. And then a steady reverse on Mo for the top. See if it can become a single of Bosch on the end. And then I might need a single on Bosch to Lopez at the end. That's my thinking. Well, I'm looking at this and I think it's got to be somehow more efficient. Um, and I think maybe the most fun way to show you what I ended up doing is to show you the scene now as it ended up being cut together, and then I'll reveal what I did for the coverage. So let's go to Resolve here. And I'm showing you in this so that we can, I'll show you later what the different shots were all by themselves, and you'll see it cuts together. But here I go. And this has got a little bit of the scene leading into it because you always have to think about the transitions from what you're going from and what you're going to.
Know the room number of the day. It shouldn't be too hard to tell us who foot the bill. Sure. Got a warrant? I can get one. That's what the last cop said. Still waiting.
Okay, and then here comes the scene we're talking about.
Asshole. It just seems. Yeah, do you think? Learn anything? We're going to stick around a bit, see if anyone will talk to us. And me? You head back to United Chemical. Get eyes on comings and goings, yeah? Um, Summoned to the chief's office. I've gotten that call more than once. Still say what it was about. No. We come up here, we start asking questions. Now the chief wants to chat. You have a career to protect. Think before you speak. Roger that. Keep me posted.
Okay, so that's how that scene ended up getting cut together. What I realized sitting and I think it was after the tech scout, I like to have my shot lists out to the crew in as much lead time as possible so that they can ingest it. And so I think I got this shot list out like 4 or 5 days before we were going to actually be shooting there. And I had versions out. I think I might have had this first version I showed you at the Tech Scout, but I'm not quite sure. I can't remember. So let me show you the new shot list I made for that scene. And so I changed it to just two shots. Steadicam leading Bosch and Lopez in a two shot. Lopez breaks off. Bosch turns to Mo, becomes over Mo to Bosch. As Mo leaves, Bosch walks to his car. Lopez comes in from deep, becomes over Bosch to Lopez. And then the reverse, steady over Bosch to Mo. Mo leaves, becomes over Lopez to Bosch. Now, if this episode, if this was a more critical scene for the entire episode, uh, one thing I might make is an overhead like this. So I've taken the art departments. Um, this I did a screenshot of this part of the art department's overhead of the whole motel, and then I found a satellite image, made it the same size, and grabbed some cars from the satellite image so I know it'd be the right scale. And then this is very confusing looking, but let's say we're all about what Bosch is doing. They come out, he walks over to Mo. Mo is waiting at his car. He turns and sees Lopez coming back. He turns and now he's facing the opposite direction, and Lopez comes and talks to him. He leaves, Lopez gets in his car. So one shot is leading the two of them, and then it becomes over Mo, and that's this shot A2. It becomes over Mo to Bosch. Then that pans to the right, becomes over Bosch to Lopez, and then that's the end of that shot. The other shot follows and becomes the opposite of the coverage in here. And the critical thing being that as the tension of something might be up is happening, we do slow push-ins on both cameras. So now what I'll do is, so those are two different ways you could express it to the team without being there together. For me, the shot list is a really easy way just to remind myself when I'm standing there of what I want to do because I'm going to explain it to the whole crew as quickly as possible. And this day was so tight that we literally picked which of these two shots to do first based on, well, if we can get this one off, then we can start lighting the next scene we're going to behind us as we're prepping the other shot, the other angle. And so now I'll show you that how that breaks down into two shots. So this is the whole sequence. And so let's turn off this camera and see what we see.
Yeah, do you think? Learn anything? We're going to stick around a bit, see if anyone will talk to us. And me? You're back to United Chemical. Get eyes on comings and goings, yeah? Um, Summoned to the chief's office. I've gotten that call more than once. Still say what it was about? No. You come up here, we start asking questions. Now the chief wants to chat. You have a career to protect. Think before you speak. Roger that. Keep me posted.
So you can see like that move in from here to here when you're cutting back and forth feels like you've done another setup. Um, and it really feels like several setups because Bosch is looking, the screen direction changes too. Bosch is looking right to left here, but then when he crosses, and you can do this because he's crossing the frame as it happens, right? We see this line cross here. Now we're on the other side of the line, and the line being the drama connecting these two characters. You typically will pick the camera will be on one side of that line. And now we're on that side for the rest of the scene. So now let's look at the other side.
Yeah, do you think? Learn anything? We're going to stick around a bit, see if anyone will talk to us. And me? You head back to United Chemical. Get eyes on comings and goings, yeah? Um, Summoned to the chief's office. I've gotten that call more than once. Still say what it was about? No. You come up here, we start asking questions. Now the chief wants to chat. You have a career to protect. Think before you speak. Roger that. Keep me posted.
And so those two interlinking shots end up covering the whole scene. And the advantage of them being interlinking like that is then you can cut back and forth between them and use different takes. So um, the cast is really great about keeping their performances the same from side to side. Our actor Miles was really experienced, and we had been working together earlier in the episode already. And so when you have actors who are okay with this idea. And I think for the cast, it's actually helpful because they're like, oh, it's only two shots. Like we can just be in it all the time. It's not a bunch of coverage. And that bought us enough time that I think what I might do now, just so you have a sense of what that day was like, I'll pull up that all the footage from that day. And even if I play it at twice speed, you'll get a sense of of how much stuff we did in one day. And I couldn't find it because I did an office clean, despite what you see around me. I do have the sheet from that shoot day, and I was keeping track of how well we were or weren't hitting the times that we were estimated to make, and we did make this day in 12 hours, thank God. All right. Let's go at twice speed.
Sure. Send it to me 2 months ago. Don't you send it? No, it's same me. Yeah, but cost me like no laughing at me. Really wasn't much help.
This is in story order.
That's what the last time said. It's full week.
These scenes, oftentimes I'm getting a lot of coverage by using two cameras at the same time, and you have to work with your cinematographer um, about you have to work with your cinematographer to really talk about what kinds of shots they're comfortable getting at the same time. Um, because when I work as a cinematographer, there are types of shots that I like doing at the same time that other DPs do not like doing at the same time, and vice versa. This scene was one two camera setup. And we're basically, there were two critical scenes on this day that needed work. One was them finding this stuff in a room, which you'll see is a bunch of shots. And then I'll play the final sequence because it was it's the last dramatic sequence of the episode. It's the last scene of the episode that required um, dramatic lighting, and that takes a little more time um, and enough shots to really build tension. Oh, and this is a phone call, which is always tricky because it reads as just one page. Let's say that phone call is one page of dialogue, but you have to shoot it twice because you have to shoot it in two different locations. So that phone calls always add work count to a day. This is them searching the room, and you can see how some of these shots you can't do at the same time as anything else. And the room is the size of the room. It's not The room has been tossed already by someone looking for something, but they feel like maybe they didn't find it. The bad guys, as it were. And Bosch notices this thread. Great focus pull, wonderful ACs. A show like this is only possible because the crew is skilled enough to work efficiently and translate your thoughts into shots easily. All right, we'll go with regular speed and bring back sound for this last bit.
Just hold in. Doesn't look like that. It's real.
Yeah, so that was 8 minutes of screen time, and we shot that in a day. Very, very busy day. That was planned to within an inch of its life. One thing that also helps in deciding how to shoot a scene is a thing called a tone meeting that happens on TV shows, which I find in feature prep is kind of happening all the time, and in a good TV show is happening all the time too. And so a tone meeting is you go through the entire script with the writer, the showrunner, and the writer of the episode, and you go through and take notes. And I use scriptation. The reflective angle is kind of crazy here, and you can see like I don't know, it's exposing, yeah, but there are lots of little notes even for that tiny scene that we shot in 2 shots. So one of the things is that they did want to have Mo get in the car and pull away. And I thought that was helpful to just see that motion happening behind him. And then Bosch knows that he's working sub rosa, and the news that um, Lopez is getting called down to the office could screw it all up. The case he's trying to solve. There's I like the line the that line, you come up here and we start asking questions. Now the chief wants to see you, and then that keep me posted is a real request. It's not. You want to get across that the botch character is truly interested. And so those notes I keep with me and I review them at the beginning of the day. And then if there's any time, I'll try to look at them before, when they're setting up the camera for the first setup of every scene. I'll check those notes and make sure I don't miss anything, that there's nothing drama wise getting by me in my role of directing the cast, because this conversation we're having today is much more about figuring out the shots and the angles and making that work for you, but it all has to tie back into the performance and the cast. Um, I think this might be a good time to ask if there are questions or you want to see anything again, or I know it's a lot. Um,
Yeah, we got a question from Chris. The practice you demonstrated of moving in and out during a longer shot is a great hack to give you much more than the sum of the parts in terms of shot options when cutting back and forth. Are there one or more other techniques you've used to get more out of this time-saving back and forth approach?
Oh, absolutely. So, and a couple happen in this sequence. So, one is people taking over each other's marks, because your brain just can't help but think like, well, I'm still looking at Bosch, but there's a different background. Like I feel like something about that makes it feel like there's a lot of motion. Crossing the line in the middle of a scene is also helpful, which is happening in this sequence. Um, and then the one thing that isn't happening so much in this sequence that I really adore, and we talk about a lot in the framing and the narrative workshop, is if you are using I- um, the number one video I would recommend people to watch for the information inside it is the Spielberg Oneer. Like just go on YouTube and Google it. Spielberg shoots a lot of developing masters with a slightly wider lens and then an insert. So he can cut together the takes between performances using the insert, and the insert is there to help drive a point home. But the idea of shooting in spherical, he's oftentimes using anamorphic, but in spherical, a 21 or 27 millimeter lens, where if someone takes 3 steps closer to camera, they change their image size for you. So the camera could be locked off, and you could still have you could still have several, if you were to take stills of your scene, you could still have what seems like several different frames based on the actors moving around in relationship to the lens.
And Craig asks, any good hacks for keeping track of eye lines?
Oh, well, there's a there's one I used to do in grad school, which is so lo-fi, and I fully recommend it. Um, if you have especially if you don't have shoulders, let's say, but even if you do, what we used to do back in the shooting on 16 millimeter days, but we would have a video tap a really junky one, is we would take tracing paper and out and use the tracing paper on the first shot we were doing and trace the person. So let's say that's the first shot is this, and I'm on this side. If you trace me out on the tracing paper and then flip me and set the next person to fill in the flipped version, it's an exact match. Like that's a great way. That's a really lo-fi way to get dead matching reverses. Eye lines are really, really tricky, especially looking up, looking down. Like it's really like the difference of a couple inches will make a scene work or not, especially if they're not in the room, the scene together. Like if they're true clean singles, and sometimes you might have to do the clean singles and not have the cast together at the same time. There are many big movies that have moments where the over the shoulder is over a stand-in with the same hair, that kind of thing. Um, all kinds of things will and do happen on a film shoot. Sunshine State, I just screened it this weekend. We had a location across from another location. Everything was great. And then we lost one of those locations. And then we had to sell a much more rural location by a beach as across the street from the other location we found, which was across a divided highway. And we figured it out. But it was all about eye lines and camera heights and stuff matching.
Rodney wants to know if you can talk about how much of a feedback loop there is with the operators during the scouting and even the day of shooting, acknowledging that there's so much choreography to help treat them
Yeah,
as a
I,
character.
I think a big disadvantage of television is that the tech scouts, you'll have the key grip and the gaffer with you, but the operators will stay on set working. So the operators are not with you. So it's really critical, especially as the cinematographer, but I feel it's critical as the director to inform the operators in a creative way from the get-go. I also feel this is a big way to work with crew in general, is I can say, well, I want to look this way, I want to be in this corner and look over here and move on. But that's different than saying, I want to be in here, look in this corner and trap them because they're feeling cornered in this scene. That's why I want them over there. That extra sentence takes a little extra time, but now the crew knows the why of why I'm doing things. So a lot of times when we watch films we love, we often start thinking about the how they did it, and we should first be thinking about the why. And if you can fold your crew in on the why of things right away, now everyone's being more creatively involved. Because, you know, it wasn't until I moved out to Los Angeles on union shows did I start meeting crew members who were second or third generation technicians, where it was the same as if we were all working in a lumber yard. And the ones that stay in that world still love filmmaking. So, but 99.9% of the crew started out in love with film and they want to help tell the story. So the more information you can give them, the better. But yeah, the operator, I try to not, as a director, I try not to leave set and always be paying attention to what's going on, because the operators can find a cool frame that looks visually really great, but might not be the story, or they can start and maybe like they find a cool shot that's like, where someone's short-sighted. If I'm like this and looking over in this direction, that might look great, but if it's cutting to someone who's here, now we've got problems. So like you've got to really be on that stuff all the time. I hope that answers the question. And absolutely the camera is a character. And I like using dance floor, if possible. And what that is instead of using track or a slider, it's sheets that make the floor really smooth, and a talented dolly grip can really glue themselves to the subtle actions of the cast. And so you can get lots of these very little moves with an operator and a dolly grip that are coordinating, because the dolly grip is another camera operator, coordinating these little moves that really make the audience get glued to the cast. And if the audience is glued to the cast, they're glued to the story.
Yeah. I'm curious. You've got a scene slotted for 9:55 to 11:20, not 11:18, mind you, but 11:20. Um, let's say,
That was just the tech scout.
yeah, let's say miracles happen and you wrap a scene a little bit early. I mean, how much, leeway is there to add that to, another setup that day?
Oh, I mean, well, that's a danger. I've worked with directors where like we've come in and crushed the opening scene and they're like, "Oh, well, let's get a couple more shots in this scene." And I'm just like, "No, we have no idea what's going to go wrong this
I
afternoon."
know.
So and it's from having been a technician. I was an electrician for 4 years and then a gaffer for 4 years and then a DP for like 20 plus years. And so I like the phrase we've all known from sets, if you're on sets, is gone with the wind in the morning and Duke's a hazard in the afternoon, right? Like you take all the time you want in the morning because you have time, and then you look at your watches at lunch and you're like, oh my gosh, we're way behind. Um, and this day is a really interesting day. Like I could do several classes on just this day because we had this one scene that was critical to feel a certain way of them discovering the stuff. That was our first scene of the day. And then that last scene was Rio coming to potentially, get into a gunfight with Bosch. That scene was last because it was night. And so you have to preserve both of those sides. And we did fall a little behind getting all the close-ups because it's just so hard to shoot in that room. And luckily we made it up and we took a meal penalty. I think we took a meal penalty to get through the scene with the housekeeper um as before we went to lunch, and that bought back, like, you can start buying back time. So I like saying, instead of Gone with the Wind and Dukes of Hazzard, let's just shoot our favorite independent film all day long. If we wrap early, we wrap early and go home. It's all fine. And I learned that from John Sayles. Sunshine State is on my mind because I just saw it projected. We had a lot of 8 and 10 hour days on that show, and I turned to him as we were going to lunch. I'm like, all we have left, it was a true single camera show. Like, all we have left is the reverses in this one room. We could even practice or rehearse with cast. We're in the same house tomorrow. And he's like, nope, everyone's worked hard. We'll go back to the office and watch dailies because it was back in film to film days where you'd watch projected dailies every night. And that was a big lesson for me. Like, he knew what he wanted. He didn't feel rushed. He was getting what he wanted and he moved on. I've done one of the things I think you've seen me demo, Wayne, is that like 3 camera shot where we change out the stunt people for the actors. And we first take worked great and it was a stunt thing. And I was like, great, check the gate. And everyone, the AD, everyone's like, you sure you don't want to again? I'm like, nope, this is good. Let's go. And you just feel the whole crew be like, all right, like, let's go. It's a really good way to keep everyone motivated.
And Craig asked if you can talk about the difference between dolly, Steadicam, and stabilizer, time versus story-wise. And I just have to mention, because I'm a trivia hawk here, that the world's first Steadicam workshops were held at Main Media.
Yeah, baby.
There you go.
That's how I first heard about it, was in the ads in the back of American Cinematographer. Um, well, they all feel different. I find, um, and it also depends on the operator. Like, a great Steadicam operator does this thing where they are manipulating a device that does have weight to it, but it's the whole purpose of the rig is to make it weightless. And so they're really doing a lot of work. Of course, I have a lens on my desk, but they're basically just holding like a post and doing this thing with their fingers. Then they've been practicing by walking around their house with like a cup full of, a coffee cup full to the top with water and trying not to spill any. And if they do that right, it starts having the feeling of the weight of the dolly. I always find that a good dolly move with an operator that's smooth with the dolly, because sometimes you can have a great dolly move and an operator that keeps like looking for something and you're like, oh my God, like, the just be, commit like an audience member. That the something about the like 400 pounds of equipment coming towards the person does get transported into the shot. That's how I feel. I'm sure Craig has a sense of what that feeling is. It's but yeah, Dolly has um maybe some inevitability to it. Um, One of my favorite movies, The French Connection, has a lot of handheld footage, and one of my favorite shots in that whole movie, I'm assuming, I never got to ask Owen about it. I I have some funny stories about some other shots from that movie. Um, but there's a shot of just um towards the end when they're gonna bust them at the warehouse and before you get the Popeye Doyle waving at the bad guys, there's a shot of just cars coming over a bridge, and it's probably like a handheld 2C, I'm imagining, like a lightweight camera of the day. And it's handheld and it doesn't do anything, but because you know everything's all the pieces are coming into place and anything could happen at any time, the sense of that camera being able to, like, you just know by it being handheld that if it needs to whip over and see something new, it can. You think maybe something's going to happen. And that's a really advantageous aspect of the handheld camera. Girl Fight was mostly on my shoulder. That was a non-union movie, so I operated it, and that was almost all handheld. And that's what we wanted, was that sense of the world not being fully stable and react, like being reactive instead of the sense of a, like the easiest way to say it. And of course, you'll be able to find a gazillion movies that break this rule, is the inevitability of a dolly versus the the ability of not of the unknown nature of a handheld shot. And then I feel like a stabilizer is all about how it gets operated. It oftentimes should feel, I think, like a Steadicam, but it's able to cover the no man's land that the Steadicam equipment can't. Like there's a spot in most Steadicam shots at waist level is kind of hard to get. Like you're either high mode or low mode.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions? If not, Patrick, if there's anything else you want to say about the framing the narrative workshop, and
Oh, well, yeah,
I can vouch for the fact that Patrick's an extraordinary teacher.
ah, thank you. Um, it's it's all about I often start the class by telling the students that it's a sketchbook class. Like, to become an oil painter or even to work on your oil painting, it's good to keep sketching. And the fun thing about the framing the narrative class is that by the end of the week, you will have made two things. One very brief, and then the other a minute or less, and comprised of only four shots and an insert. But those shots are the filming shots, not the end cut shots. And as we just saw, like that scene we were talking about today is just two shots. So imagine two more in an insert, and then the scene can be about anything. And we start by saying it's a sketchbook class, but I think the first year I taught it or the second year I taught it, one of those films got into a gazillion festivals. Like it got into a ton of festivals because a minute is easy to program. Um, if you're a short filmmaker or you're thinking about making a short film, think instead about making a great scene. Like my friend Adam Davidson won an Oscar for making The Lunch Date, and that's a scene. Like that whole movie is a great scene, and it's easy to digest, and it has a great twist. And like the more you can make great scenes, the more you can make a great movie. And short films, if you're someone, I've judged a lot of different things, and trust me, after the first 5 minutes or often 1 minute, you can tell if it's any good or not. And your resentment only grows if you have to watch 20 minutes of not great. And your appreciation goes through the roof when you see a minute of really perfect. And as you can see, it's hard to pull off 8 minutes of work in a day. You need a whole big everything, but it's much more possible to pull off a great minute. So think of short films as short films. You'll save a lot of credit card debt and you'll get in more festivals.
Good wisdom. And I know we've got a couple of people in the audience who are indeed focused on making some short films, particularly in their MFA thesis work right now. So that's
Awesome.
timely advice.
Yeah.
Any other questions, folks? Otherwise, I think we just need to thank Patrick so much for being generous with us today and taking the time. And uh, we hope to see all of you either on campus or online in other classes this year. So,
Oh, this is really great. I'm glad to see so many people here. Thanks so much.
yeah, and the love is coming to you in the chat thread right
Aw,
now. Um,
awesome. Thank you.
all right. Well, take care, everybody. Be careful. All right.
Yeah. Be safe out there. Be kind to each other.